for freedom's fight. Oh, I'm strong and free. Praise be to God. Praise, praise. Bless our great nations. Free men we stand under the flag of our land, Zambia. Praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Thank you. May I ask Comrade Bonawina Kulisa to open for us with a prayer?
Shall we pray? Our sovereign Father, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you, Lord, that as we deliver the spirit of comfort, the spirit of courage, wisdom, Father, shall indeed be bestowed upon us. As we deliberate, we speak that God, you will go with us, that you will open a revolution, because what we do is for the people of Zambia. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, let me call it an extraordinary press briefing. You know, there was a time that there was one president of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln. And the people that attended that burial had time to share with their grandchildren that I was there when we were buried. So you must be proud that you are here today. Because one day, you're going to say, no, I was there when this press briefing took place. Welcome to the making of history, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce to you the people on the high table without following not any order at all. The people who are here to address us. On my far right, no other than President Jackson Silavwe. Next to President Silavwe, no other than President Hari Kalaba. Next to President Hari Kalaba, President Savoy Mboela. Sometimes she calls herself the jailbird. She will explain. Next to President Mboela, no other than President State Council Winter Kabimba. Next to President Kabimba, a person who needs very little introduction, unless you don't watch TV. No other than Honorable Raphael Nagachinda, President of the Patriotic Front, member of the Central Committee. And the host president of this place, no other than President Sean Enoch Tembo. Thank you, gentlemen. This is the order of how this press briefing is going to move. Just after this introduction, President Kabimba will take to the floor, and then he's going to speak on private audit firms, the engagement of private audit firms. The second speaker will be President Savoy, who's going to speak on human rights abuses. And then, so I'm just being guided here. As we start, as they will be speaking, we are going to introduce the topic that we are going to be speaking on. And I don't want to say so many things because I know there'll be time that you people you need to ask questions. Okay? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the first speaker speaker of our press briefing, no other than President Winter Kabimba.
Thank you, moderator, chairperson of the program, and comrades, President Silabwe, President Haikalana, President Samuel Ingwe, President John Tembo, and my brother, chairperson of the commission, you colleagues in the media. We met here this morning. We met this morning to address a very important topical issue which relates to gross violation of our constitution. Violation gross because the president himself, Hakainde Hichilema, his complicity to this violation. In the last 1 week or so, there has been a trending, starting from Parliament and the media, the issue of who has authorized or awarded the tender or the contract to two private companies, two private international companies. One is Grant Thornton, the other one is Price Waters and Coopers, to come and audit the books of accounts of our defense and security and intelligence services. This is unprecedented in the history of this country. It has never happened before. It's happening for the first time under the watch of President Hakainde Hichilema. To date, nobody has given us a clear-cut answer in the government until yesterday. Those of you who follow the events, you must have read yesterday that for the first time since this matter started trending, there has been this revelation, this disclosure at the Ministry of Finance, not by us in the opposition, but at the Ministry of Finance, that indeed a contract has been awarded to the two international companies to audit our security, defense, security, and intelligence services and books of accounts. Now, what do we know about this matter? When this matter came up in Parliament during the Vice President's question time last Friday, the Vice President, Mr. Nalmango, said on the floor of the House that that contract was awarded because the Auditor General had delegated his powers to the two companies to undertake this job. Now, here is what we know so far. Firstly, that indeed this contract has been signed. By who? It has been signed by officials at the Ministry of Finance, not by the Auditor General. What else do we know about it? That the two companies involved are indeed foreign companies, they're international companies, Grant Thornton and Price Waterhouse and Coopers. Thirdly, that the Auditor General has confirmed that he had nothing to do, he had nothing whatsoever to do with the award of this contract to the two companies. Now, there is something that is not being said. It has not been said in Parliament. It has not been said outside Parliament. It has not been said by you colleagues in the media. That President Hakainde Hichilema, in 2016, issued a statement saying that he was still a partner in Grant Thornton and he was simply going on leave. So as he is now in his state house, he is on leave from Grant Thornton, the audit firm. Therefore, he still has interest in Grant Thornton. Therefore, he still is a beneficiary or ultimately be a beneficiary from the proceeds of this contract which has been signed by the Minister of Finance and Grant Thornton and press that President Hichilema has not come or did not go to State House to go and govern this country, but he is gone there to continue doing his business using the vote of the Zambian people. That as far as he is concerned, his business interest is paramount over and above the interest of the Zambian people. Yeah, comrade, this is the first time in the history of this country when we have a president who is more popular outside this country than he is within his own country.
Yeah.
So, HH has become a fashion model. He enjoys parading himself abroad, taking photos with foreign dignitaries. That's what he has become. He's a fashion model. That's what he has become. Back here at home, he is interested in everything that can enrich him more than what he claims to be rich already. And therefore, it is important that the Zambian people get to unmask HH. We must unmask HH and see the true HH behind that mask. The HH that projected himself and presented himself before 2021 elections is not the HH that we have today. We have a different HH. We have an HH who lied to the Zambian people, rode on those lies, got a vote of the vote of the 2.8 million people, and I didn't vote for him, so I'm not part of the 2.8. I would never ever vote for him. He rode on that vote, and then he's come to turn around against the same people. But he's not only unpopular outside his party, he is now become unpopular even within his own party. Those of you who follow news every day, you will see how despondent UPND members have become. You see how members of the UPND are questioning whether the person they supported before 2021 or in the 23 years of his being at the helm of the UPND political party is the same HH that they are dealing with today. And therefore, we in the opposition have decided to take a stance that the only way we can get the truth about this audit hit, about HH's interest in this auditing, about who is responsible for this contract, is for us to take up the matter to court. So tomorrow I'll be sending a letter of demand to Stumbeko Musokotwani as Minister of Finance. I'll be giving him 7 days to tell us exactly who signed the contract, why that contract was signed against the advice of the Auditor General, and if we don't get a satisfactory answer within 7 days, we shall commence judicial review proceedings in the High Court, so that we can unmask the HH more.
Yeah, come on.
So I want to send or put HH on notice, together with the Vice President, together with the Minister of Finance, that before the close of business today, they should be receiving a letter of demand. And whether or not they respond to that letter, at the expiry of the 7 days, we shall commence judicial review proceedings. If we don't do that, HH will make State House an extension of Grant Thornton. And we don't want him to do that, because that is not part of Grant Thornton. Because Grant Thornton is an international company which cannot be allowed under our constitution to audit the books of accounts of our defense and security services, including our intelligence. It has never been done in the history of this country. We shall not allow it to be done under HH. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, next to speak, NBC President, no other than Comrade Savoy Iboye.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, kindly allow me to write on the protocols that have been established by our council here, President Kavimba. My topic for today is about, it is on human rights, and the arbitrary arrests of our political party leaders. As you know, human rights are entitlements that everybody has, and they are guaranteed by our constitution. Zambia, we are members, we are a state party of the UN. So our human rights are guaranteed according to the many protocols, and our conventions that we have signed, from the UN, and just by virtue that we're human beings, and like they say, everybody is entitled to those human rights because you are a human being. I normally hear sometimes UPND cadres saying that HH and UPND have brought freedom of expression. You hear that, isn't it?
Yes.
At HH and ITAM human rights, yeah, the opposition, they are abusing the rights which HH gave them. HH didn't give him a right. HH did not give anyone rights. If anything, if HH had the rights to give anybody rights, he wouldn't give them. Because, yeah. If he had the right to do that, he wouldn't. Because right now, he doesn't have that right, but it's more like they're getting those rights away from us. If you look at me now, when I was coming out, I was saying, I'm dressed informally, because I should have actually gone straight to the police. The police are waiting for me right now. It's like every day, whatever it is you say, you don't even know. They have to say, because if you look at even defamation right now, sorry to cancel just the other day, cancel coming back here. Defamation is in Zambia is no longer in the letter of the constitution. Defamation in Zambia now is in the head of President Church. If he just feels that somebody is defending, then the police are on you. Doesn't matter what you're saying. And sometimes you may not like what we are going to say. The same way, people never liked what you were saying when you're in opposition. They never came after you to arrest you for anything and everything.
Even now we don't like what he says.
Even now we don't like what he says, yes. But nobody's arresting him. So at the end of the day, if you look at what is happening in the country right now in terms of human rights, I think this is something that everybody has to be concerned about. If you look at this table right here, almost everybody has passed through that. President Sean Tembo there was arrested the other time, and he talked about Bali in his statement. You get the point? This is how ruthless they are. You cannot sue a person under the name Bali if you're not Bali. It does not appear on your NRC, it doesn't appear on your birth certificate. He talked about Bali, and he was picked up. Right now he's appearing in court actually. Under a statement he made on Bali. Okay? Honorable Nakachinda here, he has been appearing also, defamation of the president. President Silabo, you saw just the other week when I was arrested at Kawata Police, he came to see me, and the UPND cadres came to harass him, But because he's a person that knows his human rights, and he knows that those rights are not guaranteed by their dictator, he went ahead and defended himself, and he was like that. And one shudders to think what would have happened if it was not caught alive on camera. You get the point. So these are the things that we are going through right now. And the international community, the Zambians have to take keen interest in what is going on. Because if you're going to violate people at a human rights point, our own dignity, our own integrity as human beings, we are being violated like that, then there's a problem, And I'm very, very happy I've seen that President Tayali actually has sued right now. They have sued for violation of his rights. Because too many people are going to be arrested. You saw just the other day, journalists from Movie TV, Innocent Field, was arrested as well. So what they normally say at what do they say, Nyanja Ubemba, That is why when there's a violation of human rights, everybody has to be interested. Because today to be the politicians, tomorrow to be you. Next to be anybody, you know. So just the other day, Movie TV went to capture whatever it is that was happening. They were arrested just for that. You get the point? And I remember, by the way, the time that I was, the police came to my house, Diamond TV came. They had to leave because of the way they were being followed. They just said, this car we're seeing behind us is not looking okay. They had to go back. You get the point? Because at the end of the day, they don't care. They go after a politician, there's a journalist there also, they arrest a journalist. So these things are not things which are normal. And that is why, as the opposition has been saying, we shall not continue just talking. The first speaker here, President Kayiba, talked about the issue of grand total. To say, after speaking, what else do we do? We need to take action. Yes. You know? And that's the level that we have reached right now. Because we have seen that we are dealing with people that are ruthless. You get the point? These guys are ruthless. If you go to the institutions of democracy right now in the country, be it the ECZ, be it the registered societies, be it the police, be it the courts, very strange what is going on. You get the point? The police right now, I was taken for the so-called defamation of the president. It changed within 2 seconds to defamation of Clay Namasaka. If you read the charge sheets, which they were reading, now they are getting shocked again. But you're saying you got this from a Facebook page. So who wrote that? They get what you say, they paraphrase it. You know? When you paraphrase something, it has to mean exactly what the person said. You get the point? If somebody said black, then you say it dark, at least you get the point. No, somebody said black, you paraphrase it and then you say white. You know? Or clear. No, it's dark, so meaning that it's black or somebody would not see or something like that. So paraphrasing has to maintain the same meaning of what somebody said. But because they're getting these things into their own hands, they don't care. That's why somebody can say Bali and they arrest him for saying Bali. Somebody can say anything. There are certain posts which I made on my Facebook where I was even saying that Uyu Muntu. They're on the charge sheet. Uyu Muntu. I don't know who Uyu Muntu is even myself. You know? You talk about Uyu Muntu, then you are talking about this one. How do you conclude? You know? How do you conclude that Uyu Muntu means Uyu Muntu was on time? I had my own Muntu in my head. I get to the point. So these are the things that we feel are very, very important right now, and not only to us opposition political party leaders, but to you Zambians, and especially the media. Being the fourth estate, you have to ensure that these messages go out there, because it's very, very clear. And with you also, that are the people that check out those voices to everybody else, they're going to make sure that they will take away our voices. President Kayiba was telling me about my experiences in cells. When they take us to the police cells, by the way, they make sure there's no mattress. Okay? There's no mattress. We tried. Can they get a mattress in? We don't understand. Because even when a person has been put in cells, they still maintain their rights. I get to the point. They still have their rights. So even if you didn't wonder, I said, look at the way I'm dressed. Oh, this is Zambia police. You know I'm a quasi supporter, so quasi for like President Quasi Jersey, I'm not wearing Zambia police society. Yeah. So when they take you to the police, they ensure that you sleep on the floor. They ensure that everything that everybody brings, they don't even give to you. President, all those things you bought the other time, they remain the other side. The other stuff, of course, they bring, when it comes to food and everything, they'll bring to the cell. But when you tell other people, okay, that's not happy, you know, we make sure that the toilets are clean, do this, they don't even bring them. I love Barbara's food very much. Normally, it's only about with the Barbara himself, you know. So these are the kinds of violations. I may joke about it, but these are the kinds of violations that this police can actually do because they feel they can do that. They don't care. Right now, the way I'm dressed right now, I don't know if I'm going to go home. Even in the car, I've already packed. I've packed and said bye to my mother, I've said bye to my children. I don't stay with my mother, but I have to bring her. Under this regime, all these years I've never stayed with my mother, but I have to bring her and say, you shall jail with it. Is that a cat? And at first I heard other people even saying, maybe we should stop talking. We won't stop. If we're going to be jailbirds this entire term of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, so be it. Because this is a person, by the way, if you look at even the way women and men are treated in our politics, they're not treated differently, you know. But for him, when it comes to position, he undermines women. But when it comes to brutality, he doesn't care. What happened when Mbikiri was put in that cell for a very long time without going to court. She has been abandoned there. She doesn't care. We know he spent 1.7 days in prison, but that does not mean that everybody else should suffer extensively like that. You know? So this is a person that does not care. When it comes to human rights, he will violate them because he knows that nobody will do anything. But let me give him this statement today. As the opposition, we have our rights, and those rights we are going to use. The experience we've been given in these prisons is not nice, it's not okay. We sleep on the floor, and just because we are strong, it doesn't mean that it's okay. So today, they're going to put me in cells, next thing they're going to run away. For me, my sureties are always ready, even now they are ready. But you're going to see, you follow yourself the development of what is going to happen at Force Headquarters today. They put you there. Simple things, oh, the insect killer at the time. People buy insect killer. Bring insect killer, there are too many mosquitoes here. They don't care. No putting insect killer in the cells. Said. I was lucky I was put in the cell which was a bit clean than others and everything. But the fact that there were many women there kept on insisting, can we please have disinfectants and everything in the cells? We continue disinfecting. They totally refused. Anyone brings that they don't want to bring to the cell, they just get like that. That's their thing. But blankets. The blanket that we were using, Honorable Tasila Lungu, she's the one that bought the blanket for us. We wanted to bring in more blankets. They refused them. You know, I remember President Temple wanted to bring in a mattress. They refused. My people at home, blankets, they totally refused. You sleep on the floor. Blankets, no. My blankets, my blankets, how does somebody kill themselves with a blanket? You know? So that's and overbody. And overbody for that matter. You know? So to cut a long story short, being in the cells is not a good experience. We are strong, yes, and we are ready, and we shall continue talking at the same risk of going back to those cells any day, any time. But that's the risk we have to make for the people that we talk for. I get the point. As an opposition political party leader, whether they like it or not, we speak for our parties, for the people out there. Every day we check my phone today. People write, others will call. No, please talk about this. Please talk about that. Please talk about that. Yesterday I was on radio, somebody calls. You forgot to talk about disability issues. And everybody knows I think that I was talking about disability issues, but yesterday I forgot. Somebody will call you. So because of that, we speak for the people out there. The same way we're speaking for the people out there, and they should not stop us. Those are our human rights. So whether they like it or not, whether they feel comfortable with it or not, we are going to ensure that we stand on our rights, the integrity, everything that they want to rip away from us, they won't manage. If it's killing us, they'll just kill us. You get the point? Why live for everything if you can't die for something? And what are we going to die for? We're going to die for our country. We're going to die for our own human rights. You know, that's exactly how it is. So when it comes to human rights, to conclude, like I said once again, we shall not stop talking, whatever the consequences are, because the Zambians need voices to speak for them now than ever before. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, maybe except those who are holding on to their cameras, we have some water at the table, the far end there. Next to speak, ladies and gentlemen, no other than President Jackson Slav.
Good morning, colleagues from the media. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, fellow leaders at the high table. I would like to also recognize different members, senior members of different political parties that are present here. I've seen chairpersons, members of the highest policy-making organs of different political parties that are represented here. I also want to recognize mine topic. So I want to apply myself to the topic of political violence, as well as some components in the breakdown of the rule of law. That is what I'm going to talk about. I want to start with my own account, and that has already been alluded to by my colleague, NDC President. President Savoy Mbonyi that when she was incarcerated at Kabwata police station, as a colleague from the opposition, I went to visit her. And of course, as some of you may know, the conduct of the police officers at Kabwata was extremely disheartening. They were quite indisciplined, and they were extremely political. We were made to wait for more than 25 minutes, thinking that you had someone in the cell. Just to be told actually that there was no one there. There was a show of force at Kabwata police station, the police wanting to show themselves that they are in charge. But we patiently waited with my team and got to see my colleague. And on our way out, we said, let us also brief the nation on what we have, experienced here at Kabwata police station. We started the address, some of you saw the video, and lo and behold, we were surrounded by UPND cadres. And their intention can only be known to themselves. But we can only guess that they were ready to do anything to us. It was extremely shocking that we experienced such, because we've always conducted ourselves in a different manner when it comes to politics. So it was extremely shocking for us and my team. And this was being done in full view of the police officers. And colleagues, what you may not have seen in that video is that all the police officers from Kabwata police station came out of the police station and they were watching. Sure. If you can see the video when I turned walking back to my vehicle, you can see all the police officers just watching. And one of the things that was extremely shocking to me and my team is that some of the cadres that came to attack us, they were coming from a police station. And the question that I still ask up to this very day, what were the UPND cadres doing at Kabwata police station? Because the person that was incarcerated was not their member, was not their president.
Yes.
But they were camped at Kabwata police station. In the aftermath of the attack, we got to learn that the gentleman in a jacket in that video is actually a former bodyguard to President Hakainde Hichilema when he was in the opposition.
Yeah.
We also got to discover that he's very close to the minister in charge of the police, Minister of Internal Affairs, Honorable Jackman. Up to now, there's been no statement from the UPND to condemn the attack by their members on us. But you get to notice that the issue of political violence in our country is on the rise. In time past, we had cadres clad in military fatigue, capes, and all sorts of regalia, that when you see them, you can recognize them. The cadres we have in the New Dawn administration, they put on a jacket, they put on a shirt, just as those at attack, so that they are not easily recognizable. We have seen the rise of political violence in Mukushi, in full view again of the police. The UPND cadres were able to attack their opponents in the opposition, whilst the police are watching. In Lusangazi, it was the same. We had the UPND attack their opponents, throwing stones to their opposition colleagues in full view of the police. In Kafue, now we have the UPND turning on themselves, perpetuating violence against UPND versus UPND. And I want to admonish the nation that violence has got no mercy. And I would like to send a timely warning to the UPND. Just because today they yield state power and control men and women who bear arms in our republic, they should not think that they've got the monopoly of violence. Every person being taught, every person whose rights are being infringed on has got the capacity to respond. Because as the saying goes, violence only begets more violence. And we should never take our political violence. In the opposition, they sang the loudest about the violence that was being. They should not. We need to understand that the issues concerning political violence are not by law. It's about the attitude of the people that are ruling us. What you saw transpire at Kabwata is the attitude of the UPND against their political opponents. Had we not stood up for ourselves, that violence would have continued to every police station that we go to visit our colleagues. Other issue that I want to handle is the issue of the rule of law in our country. We have seen a direct assault by the ruling party as far as the rule of law is concerned. We have seen now even state institutions following now suit. You had the Electoral Commission of Zambia announce the new dates for by-elections in the country when there was a court order in place. We saw the Republican president going into the two constituencies where the by-elections were supposed to take place, and yet the court order was in place. Whether the president knew that there was going to be a judgment just 2 hours before the close of the elections, it should have only appeared in the constituencies 2 hours before the close of the election. But because there was prejudice in these things, we saw the highest office in the land breaking the rule of law. And the question that I want to ask the Zambian people is that if the custodian of the constitution that we have in the country, the #1 citizen of the country who has sworn to protect the constitution, is in the fall of breaking the law, who will keep the law then in Zambia? That's the question that I ask the Zambian people. If the #1 citizen of our country is in the fall of disregarding court orders, then who will keep the court orders in the Republic of Zambia? We need to introspect as a country on where we are and where we are going. I've often said this and I want to say it once again. The success of the UPND lies in the correct interpretation of the vote last year, where they emerged victorious. Was it a vote of political violence that the people of Zambia pronounced themselves to? That today we can be treated to political violence left, right, and center? Was it political violence that the Zambian people voted? Was it the breakdown of the rule of law that the Zambian people voted for when they ushered in the UPND with an overwhelming majority? Are these things the ones that the Zambian people pronounced themselves to? The Zambian people must not forget. They should go back and talk to themselves. Is this the change that the Zambian people voted for? Is this the change that we are currently witnessing? Up to now, we've never had a statement from the UPND on what transpired at Kabwata. They are quiet. I ask again the Zambian people, does it mean that the violence of the UPND is sacred? Because nobody talks about the violence in UPND when it is perpetuated by them. I asked the question in the aftermath of my attack. You media colleagues, if it was me who pushed that man maybe hurt himself, which I can do very easily. I can do that very easily. There was nothing there, really. I was just managing the situation. No. If I pushed him or maybe he hurt himself, colleagues are asking, what could have happened to me? I would have been at Mukoveko, threw away the kids. I said, let him rot there. We may laugh at them today, but we don't know what could have transpired that day if we never stood up for ourselves. And I want to say this to the Zambian people. The Zambian people should not be intimidated. This violence being perpetuated by the ruling party needs to be stopped.
Yes.
And you, the Zambian people, have got the power to stop it. We need to stop it together before it goes further than the way it is right now. Colleagues, I thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next to speak, no other than President Harika.
Thank you very much. I think I will ride on the protocols that have already been introduced by my colleagues. I'm happy to see all of you leaders here. Remember, united we stand, divided we collapse. We have all seen the erratic nature in which government is managing the agriculture sector. And this is very worrying for us, as agriculture is supposed to be the key driver for Zambia's economy. While copper, which we seem to be focusing on, is a wasting asset, agriculture, on the other hand, represents economic and environmental sustainability. According to the ILO, agriculture alone accounts for over 48% of those who are employed in Zambia. It's also fair to say that over 80% of those employed in rural areas are employed in the agriculture sector, and the majority of which are women. The global watchdog that tracks commodity production indicated that Zambia had produced 3.6 million tons of grain in the 2020-2021 farming season, up by nearly 7% of the previous year's production of 3.4 million tons, creating an excess of well over 1.2 million tons, considering that the country's consumption is just around 2.2 million tons per year. The same statistics were recorded by the US Department of Agriculture. With such statistics, it therefore follows that Zambia's agriculture sector has until now been on the growth trajectory and needed a boost to ensure that growth is not just sustained, but more importantly increased if we are to satisfy the yearning demand in the region and the continent as a whole. Alas, what we are experiencing today is exactly the opposite. If not intended to completely obliterate the sector in a bid to push self-interest and the private enterprise at the expense of the suffering majority. I think we have all seen that the major interest of our government has not been about when the farmers will receive the farming inputs. It has been who is winning the tender to supply the fertilizer. And that is a major source of worry. The delay in the distribution of inputs will most certainly have a significant negative impact on agriculture in the 2022-2023 farming season in Zambia and the region. It is not just poor economic management to starve a sector that is meant to lay your golden egg. It also shows a lack of understanding that the fundamentals that promote peace and unity in the nation. It is embarrassing to note that in some places, as many as 40 people are sharing 10 bags of fertilizer. That's a ratio of 4 to 1. How do 4 people share 1 bag of fertilizer and you go out and start claiming to be good economic managers? My jokes. How do you justify the fact that today, 16th November, right? Farm inputs are still marooned in warehouses. And in some cases, suppliers and distributors are yet to be identified. This is not just acceptable, but also shows a clear lack of appreciation of the role that agriculture plays in the Zambian economy. We will not belabor the point, but the only thing we are doing is to call upon the New Dawn government to, even at the very least, pretend to be a listening government and ensure that they take all possible measures to address this situation. The same way we called on the president to leave Egypt and come back to Zambia and provide oversight in the distribution of imports. And he at least took the advice, actually, because he left that Egypt even before the US president arrived. We are asking the president to call upon the Zambia National Service to help with the distribution of inputs. Please, let them get involved, as they have the capacity to manage such logistical challenges before the roads become impassable. Finally, we want to remind our friends in government to take time to understand life in rural Zambia. You spend time on the farm cultivating, planting, and tendering your produce, and when you have harvested and exhausted your produce, you start looking at other sources of livelihood. And in this case, that source is most likely going to be either poaching for those who live near game reserves, or tree cutting and charcoal burning, which will have a devastating impact on our carbon footprint. Your delay in giving out inputs will not just cause untold starvation, but will trigger these social vices and cause serious damage to this country. We therefore would like to call upon government to hasten the pace of resolving this agriculture impasse before the gains we had made in this sector are completely dissipated, and that will result in a lot of social vices, including an increase in divorce cases, spousal abuse, and in some extreme cases, loss of lives and property. I think it is very important that the agriculture sector takes the center stage that it should take. Most of our people live on agriculture, and you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that it is the first time in many years that fertilizer is reaching the farmers in November. Because strictly speaking, fertilizer should have been in provinces as early as July. It has not even reached, right? I'm a farmer, actually. For those of you who didn't know, I'm a farmer. Up to now, we have not yet gotten the fertilizer. In case you think I'm just talking the talk, we have not gotten the fertilizer, and the workers at the farm, we are still waiting to obtain that fertilizer. And even if you find the fertilizer, the price is so excruciatingly high that you cannot even manage to buy a bag of fertilizer. We are told the bag was going to cost 250 kwacha. It is now costing 1,200 per bag. And you are saying you want to promote agriculture. This is a mockery of the agriculture sector. And we want it to stop. And for once, can we give value to our farmers? Can we give respect to the people that are providing food security? We are tired of this talking every other day. We want the UPND government to begin walking the talk, not just talking the talk. I thank you.
Thank you very much. That was President Harry Kalala. Okay, we are about to listen to the last but one speaker. Last but one speaker. want us to adjust the microphones. Remember, we have some water. Those that need to take some water, we have some water at the bar, at the far end there. The table at the far end, there's some water there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our last President Sean Enoch Tembo.
Countrymen and women, the economy is not doing well. Sara manyumba umuyakula. You know, when people ushered in a new government in October, or rather August of last year, they expected to see some changes in their households, at least within a year. At least within a year. And we have seen so far that each and every administration that has run the affairs of this country, they have left some kind of legacy. Something to kumbukirako. Simame. You need people free education. That's why we are able to speak this good English we are speaking today. Privatization tambo jako na maapo tezoona shatu TV na makala TV na maselfoni yose wayatiletera wa MMD wa PF wanachako infrastructure awa wacho wakutaudi wa Zambezi Road, it looks like Tokyo. So lokwezeli koma mismanagement here and there vamene wanachita vione manje wanzatu wa New Dawn. So far, their only legacy ni majanki. Majanki is their only legacy. The junkies are the children for Hakainde Hichilema. Because before Hakainde became president, majanki has only patali maningi. They were not as concentrated as they are today. And you should ask yourself, majanki, they are merely a symptom of what? A problem. What problem? Poverty. The increased levels of poverty across the country. And why do we have so much poverty in our country? Why do we have so much poverty? When we have so much potential, whichever sector, whether you look at mining sector, there is a lot of potential there. Whether you talk about my basic minerals, my copper, my copper, say gold kuja kusolwezi. After Abuela Hakainde, anabala kuja aikako national service, wakumba weka usiku. Those are our minerals. We can exploit them to check us poverty, isn't it? Yes. The other big problem, which is a major cause of this poverty, is the selfishness in the current administration. Selfishness. Wafuna kugia weka, wafuna kugira mtumba. Those who went to primary school in those old days, where the saying kugira mtumba came from, there were those other kids whereby if you buy things at break time, magula masamusa, apemba, kule wanzake, eva kakula fitumbua, aika mtumba. So mwone che tumba yonaka papa sai. Ajera mtumba. That is how the New Dawn are behaving. Ajera mtumba. Man, if you look at President Hakainde Hichilema and how he came to be where he is today, how he was able to migrate from Kalingalinga to Kaplonga, and then from Kaplonga to New Kasama, you realize that he was empowered by the government of that time, the Frederick Chiluba government. They empowered him. He was a relatively young man. But when government decided that they wanted to do privatization for this country, they did not look outside the country. They did not go to France or America or Chan uko. Wananga na lokali no kambati inchi totenti gawanise mazambians. And President Hakainde Hichilema himself was identified to participate in the privatization process when he was a relatively young man. He was in his early 30s, but he was identified to participate in a national undertaking. Wampasa konchito chita. Mamena anashitira ija nshito whether anashita bwino or anajanga ramaza boma ndani ya deina. But point ya lero ni akuti wanamuita empower. He was empowered. If President Hakainde Hichilema was never empowered, today he would have still been in Kalingalinga. Yes. Because of Kablonga Kuja, Nyumba ya Menanagula, it was through the connections he made with the people who were privatizing Lima Bank. So me, if I'm privatizing company A, and my friend here is privatizing company B, and then kuri nyumba Kablonga huko, ienda pa give away price wifuna. Ngamulea elifuna, anipasa, anigulisa nyumba hiyo. That is how he acquired the Kablonga house. That is how he was able to move from Kalingalinga to Kablonga. Mayo na mameli empowerment. Mande. Mukaona pamene tili lero. After our friend was empowered by President Frederick Chiluba during that time, Wamusha empower apangamo economic progress, ashitako na participate in politics. Today is the president. Is he empowering other Zambians? No. We'll look at two examples. Just two examples. There is a recent contract which was awarded to try and reorganize Mopani copper mines. For government to decide whether they want to continue with that contract which PF entered into to buy shares in Mopani or not. And the government wanted advice on that contract. Do you know who they hired?
No.
You don't know, you're in the media, you can Google it. They hired an international American firm called Rothschilds. Rothschilds. That firm, they are paying it more than $50 million. They are paying it more than $50 million. That is the kind of work which can be done by a lot of Zambian consultants. Zambians, there are a lot of educated Zambians who can do that job. If you go to LinkedIn, almost everyone has an MBA. Everyone has an MBA, there are plenty of chartered accountants, there are plenty of professionals who can do that job. We have a lot of consulting firms here in Zambia, but Hakainde Hichilema did not look at any of them. Instead, he went and contracted an international firm called Rothschilds. They were many of them $50 million to charge advise Palimopani. So you can see, this is someone who was empowered by being given an opportunity, and then he becomes president, and he has an opportunity to empower other Zambians, but he doesn't want to empower other Zambians. I'll give you another second example. The issue of KCM, whether government should continue with that liquidation or bring back the Vedanta or not. Government wanted advice on that. It was a recent tender action. You are in the media. Who knows who that tender was awarded to? Among you in the media. You are to watch the media. Who knows who that tender was awarded? It was all over the papers. That lady who is the liquidator, the Indian lady, made an announcement, and it was all over the media. That tender was awarded to a South African company called Land Merchant Bank, RMB. Again, that tender is worth more than $30 million. That's a lot of money by any standards. And yet, it was not awarded to a Zambian firm. So then, how do you expect Zambians to make economic progress if you are not empowering them? If you are empowering your colleagues in South Africa, in America, Mazambians, you don't want to empower them. And yet you are a product of empowerment by the previous government. Is that clear? No. Tikajandaura ni shitara kwa opposition. Sina. Mwana, tukuna zikora tu iende pasogoro. Shtukuko shibwele mziko ya. And it can only happen if Zambians are empowered. They are given an opportunity. Without an opportunity, we cannot make progress. As simple as all that. And the reason Anamaka in the Majanti Wapaka is because there is no empowerment of Zambians. Zambians need an opportunity. We are hardworking people. We want a good life for ourselves, but we don't have opportunities. So we are just asking the new dawn in general. Now, haka in the wamene ngatuambera mtu wamera kai wakonda social media. So now haka in the tiwa uzabuti to pass an opportunity. Na ise Mazambians kidiako bwino. Na Mazambians wewe wangala makalinga inga nawe wakukileka ukablonga. Mamele mna kupira imwe tapapa ata. Ziko.